Hey everyone, my name is David Nixon and welcome to the Peak and Flow podcast. Today I want to talk about the difference between finite and infinite games and why they're important and how we can apply them. Or how do we actually shift because what it really is shift our mindset, our paradigm shift around how we view finite versus infinite games. So firstly, what is a finite versus infinite game? Well, I know Simon Sinek has definitely done some work on this. Alex Hormozi's talked to this, and I'm sure many other great leaders in their respective fields have discussed the difference between finite versus infinite games. So what are they? Really looking at finite games are referring to games where there are a set number of rules, set number of players, there's a set time frame, it is finite. There's a beginning, there's an end. I mean, even with our life to some degree, that's a finite game. Our physiological birth and then physiological death. And so with finite games, and I use the word games in a very loose framework, so it's actually like it can be cross context. So if we view work finite or infinite, if we view health as finite or infinite, if we view relationships as finite or infinite, and so forth. So where does infinite games come into play? Well, with infinite games, there's an infinite amount of resources. There can be an infinite amount of players in the infinite game. There's no real agreed upon end term at all, or beginning. You can opt in, opt out. Just like on many literally video games that run 24/7 that you can just jump in and jump out. There's no end or winner. There's leaders, but no one's won anything, as in that's it. I have 1 health. I have completed squats, as if squats are finite. As if squats are, I can get the technique right and then I win squats. That's not how it works, and that's not how many things. That's not how business works. That's not how your health works. That's not how your own development and mental unfolding works. These are all infinite. Allow me to explain. So if we're looking at health as an example, and you have 2 different people. One person realizes that that training and nutrition and the way that they think has no arrival. There's no finish line. They just know that that's going to be a part of what they do. It's whether they like it or not, it's always a part of who we are because our health is there whether we're paying attention to it or not. And so they realize that this is just a component of their way of being. Now, the other person may not realize it's a component of their way of being. They might think it's something that they have to do. They want to go, if I don't see results in 12 weeks, then I'm not motivated to continue, as if just because they're not motivated to continue means that it goes away and they won't have to deal with it until later on. So now we see that this person sees their health as this finite. There's a beginning and an end, and I have to get a result in order to be able to continue doing it. And if I don't get that result, then I'm not motivated to do it. And so the person in that case would stop doing it. But the reason why they went into it gets worse. And so when we can shift from finite to infinite in so many areas of our life, and I'm really going to look at 3. So one is going to be work, the other one's going to be health, and the other one's going to be, for lack of a better word, legacy, right? So playing along with that health analogy, when we can see that our health, just like our body, is infinite in the sense that it just continually unfolds. And so what I mean by that is that what your body needs at 25 compared to what your body needs at 35 compared to what your body needs at 45 is different. What works at 25 won't work exactly the same at 35, won't work exactly the same at 45. Now, not only that, if we're able to zoom out and take on more and see more context here, it's not the same life conditions. You have different priorities, you have probably different relationship status, you probably have different dependents or family members, even if it's animals. You might have different business partners, you might have different work situation, you might have different distance. And this is what's really interesting about this thought now that I'm sharing it. I'm sort of centering this around the gym, but there is plenty of people that are exceptionally healthy that do not have gym memberships. And there are plenty of people that are not healthy that do have gym memberships. And some of them even attend frequently or too frequently. So it's really important to take a step back and look at what actually health means, and that's yours to define, funnily enough. We should be integrating the data. We should be integrating and understanding, what does health mean from a objective standpoint and also subjective standpoint. And that's meaning, and what health means to you at this stage in your life is going to be different to the next stage. This is why it's dangerous for us to see our health as this finite thing. Now, it doesn't mean that there can't be some finite games within the infinite unfolding of your health. An example of that is people sometimes look at 8-week challenges and so forth, or 8-week programs as finite games. Now, if we're taking that finite game as part of an infinite game, no worries. We're able to opt in, have a bit of a, let's call it a motivation boost, have a bit more of a period of time where we've got focused direction towards that we're choosing to prioritize that for that period of time in that finite game. The challenge is when we continually need finite games to make it a priority. And the reason why that's a challenge is because it just means it's not that important to me. It's okay if it's not that important to me, but sometimes we struggle with that because of societal pressures that this should be important to me. I should look a certain way. I should have certain numbers that I should be meeting. And if I do all that, then I'm happy. And I build this strategy where my happiness and value and worth is completely built upon external data or external numbers or external validation. And so in that case, I need these external factors to line up in order for me to go, I am happy, I am worthy, I am loved, or whatever the case might be. That's one of the issues, is that we set ourselves up in a way where external factors, the external environment and factors, have to align in order for my internal environment to go, I'm good and safe and okay. Now I'm completely at a, not victim, but at a whim of what's happening out there. Interesting. So let's look at finite versus infinite games in the sense of work. Now, this goes into one of my last conversations where it's about building a body of work over time. If we can build a body of work over time that outlasts your biological body, we start to see that this is an infinite game, because no one ever wins business. It's a game that you continually keep playing, and there's in that game there is wins and losses and all sorts. But if you keep rocking up, you'll win. I went to the States. I'll actually have another update. I'm due to go back to the States this September. So if you're in the States, I'm keen to come across and do some work as well. And if you're hearing this, reach out. I'd love to hear from you, but I'll give some more information on another podcast. But 2015, 2016, 2017, I spent about 16 weeks in the States. I was fortunate enough, I spent some time with C.T. Fletcher. If anyone doesn't know who C.T. Fletcher is, you can Google him. For those that do, you'd be familiar with the kind of character he is. So I spent some time with him and I asked him a question. And that question was, why do you think you are who you are and got to where you are today? And he goes, I'm just an old motherfucker that held on when everyone else let go. That is literally him saying, I played the infinite game. I just kept showing up. I just kept rocking up. Of course, I lost heaps. I won a few. But the thing is that everyone else they gave up. They played a finite game and they moved on. He kept playing. And this goes on to the quote that the man that loves walking will walk further than the man that loves the destination. This is us just showing up for the love of the game. Doesn't matter what game it is. Doesn't matter if it's cricket, if it's football, if it's business, if it's relationships. If we love to be in the game. Now, the game for you is whatever you want to define it to be. But if you love the game and you love interacting with it, see it as infinite, because you'll win long term, because you'll keep winning and you'll get more W's against your name and less L's over time because you'll be more experienced. I feel exceptionally fortunate about this, because when I was 15, first getting into the fitness industry, I thought about it and went, by the age of 35, I'll have 20 years experience and probably be one of the youngest people in the country to have 20 years experience in the industry at that age. And I'm like, okay, that's amazing. I don't know how the fuck I had that thought at 15, but I did. I remember clearly having it. I'm 34. In a couple of weeks, I tick over to the start of my 20th year in the fitness industry. And I feel exceptionally grateful that I had that foresight at the time. And I feel exceptionally grateful for the ups and downs and the lessons all the way through. But I sit here now with a completely different frame of mind, which I knew, and I know that in another 20 years I'll have a completely different frame of mind again. But to be able to get to that point, I had to go through everything else. And this is one of the struggles that people have, is they try and skip the work. Now, the work isn't about going and always doing all the hard shit all the time. The work is showing up. Showing up when you... And admitting, I don't feel like being here. I'm here though, right? If you get enough of those days in a row, then it's like, what needs to change? What needs to change outside, but what needs to change on the inside? Because what's on the inside is fundamentally in your control. Fundamentally. That is in no one else's control. That is yours. What you think, what you feel, what you say, how you act. The 4 things that are only ever in your control. And so when we look at these finite versus infinite games, and we see it play out with the difference of, let's call it legacy, and this is what I find interesting, and I want to finish on this point here. When we look at legacy, a lot of the times people may make legacy about them. So when I die, I want people to think this of me. I want to give this to people, but it's about me. When we look at playing infinite games from influencing intergenerational change, growth, development, it's about us. It's about the world. It's far more integral. And so intergenerational change will drive your future. It'll drive and influence everyone else around you. And so that's the type of legacy that really means more than anything, is making sure that you're driving for intergenerational change. And the ability to do that comes from knowing that you're finite, but you're choosing to play an infinite game. Team, that's me. I'm out. Done. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you want to find out more about our programs, Meet the Moment, or our coaching programs, or become a coach, a Peak and Flow coach, you can find out at peakandflow.com.au. If you'd like to find out about our retreats, then you can jump on and find out about our retreats on the exact same website or in the links below in the show notes. On top of that, we run a free Moments webinar. Now, that's a free weekly webinar where we get to catch up. It's either hosted by myself or one of the other facilitators from Peak and Flow, and we cover on topics of mind, breath, and body. It's a chance for people, and it's completely free. You can sign up to it at peakandflow.com.au. It's 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, and we get to discuss all of these things that allow people across the globe to have a shared language and a shared common unity, which is a community. And it's a true online community. Otherwise, that's enough from me. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you found it beneficial, it would mean the world to me if you'd pass it on through your socials or someone else that you think would find it beneficial. Until next time, peace and pizza. I'll see you soon.